Welcome to Edge of the Rabbit Hole, what to do when you are haunted. So we're going to have a lot of great tips, things that Vanessa and I have known to work over the years. It's kind of a practical how-to, you know, when you find out or discover you are haunted. So really looking forward to this one. Of course, I'm here with my lovely co-host Vanessa Hogle and our beautiful chat Shananigator Shawna down in the chat room. How you doing tonight, Vanessa?
I am dandy.
That's great. That's great. I think we've both been extremely busy lately, so dandy is dandy's good, because I know we've both been tired with because we've both had a lot going on, whether it's work or you know, everything else that we do. So
it's been nuts. It's been nuts. So nuts is good. Nuts means we're doing something right.
It does. It does.
People are interested and they want to hear what we have to say. So I'll take nuts over boredom any day of the week.
Absolutely. Now, there was a little scare earlier tonight, and I need to throw this out there. There was a little scare earlier tonight that the show may not happen because of a power outage that I had. There was a truck that ran into the power lines out here and knocked out power in the community. There's still that chance that we could lose power tonight and the show will go off, because they're down there right now replacing the pole that all the wires are on, and you never know what may happen. So hopefully everything will stay up, but it's right out here, right out my window really. I can see the flashers from the cop car and all of that stuff. So I would take you out there just to kind of show you, hey, here's everything that's going on, because it's kind of cool. But then I'd have to like really mess with the setup here. So
yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, yeah, let's mess up the setup.
Let's not do that.
So,
let me pop in real quick.
Yep.
And just tell everybody, because I know a lot of people that are on here are also following what Julia, Rachel, and myself are doing with the Cropsey case.
Cropsey, here we
and
go.
I have received almost all the footage, and I am still waiting on Rachel's, and
Okay.
I'm going to go through that, get everything all done up, send it to my specialist, Gwen, and we'll get it out there for y'all. Woohoo!
Fantastic. All right. Also, okay, let's get into kind of the laundry list of stuff, the housekeeping type of things. So, of course, we always mention Ghosty. He's always like the first guy that we mention. Ghosty! If you haven't gotten your Ghosty yet, he is Haunted Road Media's mascot. Of course, you need to get your Ghosty. HauntedRoadMedia.com. In the shop, you just go there, get your Ghosty. And if you do get your Ghosty, take a selfie with Ghosty, hashtag selfie with Ghosty. Thank you, Shana, for the hashtag. And we'll post that on Ghosty's Facebook page. Also, we do have a new Where's Ghosty pic out there in a mausoleum, very cool mausoleum out in Illinois that Shana and I checked out on her birthday this past weekend. So speaking of birthdays, Shana just had hers this past Saturday. I need to thank everybody. She put a challenge out there to get to 3,000 subscribers by her birthday, and the very first night that she put the challenge out there, boom, you guys made it happen. So really happy for that. It was a goal of mine to reach that before September, and Shana got us there on before her birthday, which was August 4th. So we hit it August 2nd. So really, thank you guys for all that. If you haven't yet subscribed, please go ahead and do so. We have all kinds of stuff coming up. A lot of great guests. We're going to get to that in just a second here. And then we'll get right into our topic, which is what to do when you are haunted. So the t-shirts, of course, if you haven't got your t-shirt yet, go ahead, put your order in. Let me know about sizes. I'm about to make another order. So if there's a certain size you need, just so I can get the numbers going right on the order, let me know what size you might like, and then I can make the order catered more toward what we need. So please go ahead and let me know that. New Rabbit Hole t-shirts coming up. So also, oh, I almost forgot to mention it. 3,000 subscribers. We had a contest with that. For 3,000 subscribers, we said you would, once we hit that, we'd have a giveaway. we're on YouTube right now, so I need to be very particular with how I say this. You cannot say here that you want to be entered into the contest. You have to go and use other social media to do that. So on Facebook, Twitter, hit us up through Messenger, email, whatever you need to do to let us know you'd like to be entered in the drawing, just not here. And we'll enter you in. We'll do the drawing. We can pull the hat, the name from the hat right here. We're going to do that next week, August 15th, on that show. So get your entry in, and we're going to be giving away a t-shirt. And a ghostie. I'm throwing in a ghostie too. T-shirt and ghostie. Yeah.
People are asking about hoodies.
Hoodies?
So,
yeah, yes. I know, because cooler weather is coming up.
Mm-hmm. So I want one.
Okay.
Mama needs a hoodie, okay? So we need to get working on that.
All right. Just let me know if we have enough orders for hoodies, because basically I can do 25 at a time.
Okay, you have to do 25 at a time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 25 at a time. So I'm more than happy to do hoodies. I know people want them. So.
Yeah. Well, and we also need to contact the person that you go through and find out if there's going to be an increase in cost.
Oh, for hoodies, yeah, hoodies will be a different price tier. Yeah. So we'll find out all that. Since I have to place the order for the new shirts, then I'll find that out here in the next couple of days. Okay, real quick. Upcoming shows. I want to throw this out there. We have Unknown Darkness, Katie Hopkins and her group. They do a lot of work at the Edinburgh Manor out in Iowa. That's coming up. Katie's also submitted a story to the latest Encounters with the Paranormal book. We have later this month Kyle Mecca. He is the writer and director of the paranormal thriller movie Dwelling. It's a very, very cool movie. It just came out on DVD. You can go pick it up at Walmart and what have you. I interviewed him a couple of years ago before we did the whole live thing. And I really love the premise of this movie. I'm actually in there on this special thanks for it, which is kind of a cool thing. So I was happy to be involved in like a minuscule way, but you know, we'll have him on, you know, talking about you know, representing the paranormal in the movie industry. And then next month, September 12th, this is kind of special. Now, I have to preface this. Our buddy Rob Guttrow, okay, he's been on here a couple of times, a good friend of mine from back in Maryland. He has been on his blog for the last several weeks, been posting a Friday Night Ghost Fright. So he's running through the whole gamut, like each week on his blog, which is very, very cool. We thank Rob very much for that. Well, a couple weeks ago, he posted the Friday Night Ghost Frights that we did on H.H. Holmes. Well, there were a couple people that commented on that. Rebecca Gardner, Kia Presley, for a couple off the top of my head, that commented on there like, hey, you need to check out the new show, American Ripper, which basically is a theory that H.H. Holmes was Jack the Ripper. And so basically, I decided to check it out, see what this is all about, and I've contacted Jeff Mudgett, who is the great-great-grandson of H.H. Holmes, who's, you know, basically the center of this series on the History Channel, and he's going to be on September 12th. So it'll be very, very cool to have Jeff on here.
Awesome. And, Mike, I need to say something on here, and I apologize if I get this name wrong. I believe it's Andrew Kubich, or Kubich. I'm not certain, so I apologize if I got your name wrong.
Yep.
He put on here, and I think this is wonderful and a testament to yours and Shawna's character. He says he trusts you and Shawna above all.
That is awesome. Thank you, Andrew.
I wasn't sure if you saw that, but that really does need to be pointed out.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that because I haven't been watching the chat. But thank you, Andrew. Yeah, we investigated Cimarron Towers there in Cushing, Oklahoma several years ago. And so, yeah, Andrew, I really, really do appreciate that. That was a very cool investigation.
I have to say that. I saw it, and I'm like, that needs to be put out there. People need to see that. That's how your viewers see you, and I think that's wonderful.
Well, thank you. Much, much appreciated. Somebody asked, I just saw real quick when glancing down, where is Dwelling available? You can go to Walmart. It's available at Walmart for like $10. So,
I'll have to go get that.
Yeah, yeah. It's you can go through the archives of if you go to the playlist on the Haunted Road Media channel, down in reviews and interviews, I think is the name of the playlist. There's an interview with him, Kyle Mecca, and then Erin Marie Hogan, the actresses from the movie. We have an interview with her, and yeah, it's kind of like you've talked about some issues with Skype, so these are kind of raw, but basically I'm looking to update it, refresh it with Kyle, especially now that the movie is released. So, all right. So without further ado, we've kind of been at it, kind of prefacing everything leading up to the show. So what to do when you're haunted? You know, you say you're, you know, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios. We could talk about this for like a long, long time. And Vanessa, you and I used to talk about, you know, things like this when we used to speak at opera back in Oklahoma years ago. You know, if your house is haunted or you personally are haunted, you know, what to do. Because a lot of people are like, hey, I got something going on in my house. You know, is it evil? Is it demonic? You know, what's going on? You know, and people start getting scared because they don't know what this activity is that's going on in their house. So I'm going to toss it at you real quick. So, you know, first thing to do.
I was actually thinking about this because, you know, you and I were talking about it, and it occurred to me that in some instances, not at all, okay, not at all, but in Diane saying, call 911, Vanessa. Bless her. Call 911, Vanessa. But in some instances, it occurred to me, I wonder if it isn't the location that is haunted, but if the person is actually opening up spiritually and drawing, you know, and getting almost like a mediumship or a spirit communicator thing going on, that nice little vibe. Because it doesn't always happen when you're young.
Right.
You know, sometimes people break into this much later in life. And so, I mean, that's also something that you know, people might want to look at. Is it the location that's haunted? Is it you that's haunted? Or is spirit starting to communicate with you so that you can follow a different path?
Well, and it could be, you know, a combination of all that. Because, like I know, part of Shawna's story is that, you know, growing up and into her young adulthood, excuse me, she didn't have any experiences. But she ended up moving into this one house where there was a little girl, and then all of a sudden, boom, the whole paranormal world just opened up to her. So it was like that one event. You know, it was the house was haunted, but then that opened her up, and now she was, you know, seeing and experiencing, you know, all these different things. So
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. And so, I mean, depending on what the situation is, it's kind of how I wish that ghost hunters or investigators or whatever, I wish they would, and myself included, because like I said, this just occurred to me, so I'm kind of hoping this starts a trend, is that when we get contacted by people about these things, if we'll start to bring that question into the fold. Right. And see if it's something that this person needs to be helped with in order to broaden their mind spiritually and open them up if they want that, or if it is location specific. You know, and one of the ways that you can tell that is generally if you're opening up spiritually and you're starting to hear the voices and see the dead people and all that other good stuff, it doesn't just happen in your house.
Right.
So, you know, whereas, and that's why I'm saying, some people might say, well, this ghost followed me to work. Not in the way you think, you know. So that's something that I think needs to be looked at a little bit. That having been said, if you are haunted, if your home is haunted, it's real easy for the first thing for somebody to do is to, you know, open up the paranormal yellow pages, you know, and try to find somebody to come in, or they'll feel embarrassed and don't want to do that. When really what they need to do, unless they feel like they're being physically or emotionally attacked. And I mean attacked. I don't mean something off the shelf. I mean attacked, you know. If it isn't violent, then these are things that, I mean, they can start to question themselves. They can put tape recorders out, see if they get anything, collect their own evidence first before they bring somebody in that might stir up something that doesn't need to be stirred up. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, no, I understand that, but I would also caution, do some research. I mean, there's a lot of teams out there these days, and people that have they watch some episodes on TV and they're like, hey, I can do that. And maybe they can, like, after some seasoning and they've been doing it a while. So take caution with a team that you might bring into your home. Do some research on them. That they're credible, that they've been doing it for a while. That they have some rapport with the local community for being a good team. Because I look at bringing a team into a home as somebody who can maybe debunk what's going on. Maybe you're not actually haunted,
Absolutely.
but there's just something going on with the house, with the structure, the plumbing, whatever. The electricity, because we've seen that a number of times where there's just a high EMF in this one spot in the house because of some faulty wiring, and just by being near it, you start getting a little loopy, and that's legit. So, and they may be able to come in and say, hey, you have this going on, that going on, hire an electrician, get it taken care of. But maybe they also do. On the flip side of that, they're able to say, oh, well, it seems like maybe you do have something going on here. Here's what we were able to collect. And it may take a number of times for them to come into the house to be able to deduce that. It's not always, the team walks in and they capture a snapshot of an apparition and say, yeah, there you go, you got a ghost. It's not like that.
Well, yeah, and the kicker is, okay, so they come in, now what? Okay. We've proven you're haunted. Now what? And that's also something that needs to be addressed before anyone is allowed in your home. Are they coming in there for self-serving purposes and only to appease their own curiosity, or do they genuinely want to help you?
Right. Yeah, and I think that is important because there are a lot of people and teams out there. I'm not going to point fingers. There's a lot of very, very good people. In this community, in this field, but there are those out there that are just looking for the next great piece of evidence so they can brag about, hey, look what I got. And you need to be careful of those type of people. Well,
and it goes on the flip side too, Mike. We got some nutsos in this field, but we also ourselves have to look out for ourselves as well. A friend of mine and I have been contacted multiple times here in Oklahoma about someone who believes that they have a very negative spirit in their home.
Yeah.
And we have told them time and time and time again, we can come out. Let us know when. These are the days we're free. And they only ever want us to come on a weeknight. I work all day long.
Yeah.
I'm not going to drive 2.5 hours one way on a Tuesday night in order to do this.
Yeah, weeknights are a little tough.
Yeah. My weekends are free. I can come anytime. But you know what? That darn thing ain't ever around on the weekends. Only on Tuesday night. Or some other weekday night. And it's like, we've told them time and again, if you really want help, you'll take it when we can give it.
Right, and I think that's kind of a common misunderstanding by those. I mean, and I understand why it happens, but a common misunderstanding for those looking for help in their home, that they think that we do this for like a full-time living, that going out to do paranormal investigations somehow pays all the bills, when we're going in there and saying we're investigating your house free. So obviously we're not getting paid for the investigations. How do you think we're, so they don't understand, a lot of them don't understand that, we actually do full-time jobs as well. And so I think that kind of goes into it, that they, kind of treat us like, the electrician, the plumber, somebody that can take care of, a household problem. We're on call, 24/7. It's not quite like that.
I mean, in a perfect world, if I didn't have to work, like I do, and the same with you, if we could help people 24/7, we would. That's just the kind of people we are. But I like lights and food, you know, so have a job, you know, same as you do. Now, these people actually did offer to pay us, and I said, absolutely not. I won't accept any payment, but, you know, driving 2.5 hours, a pizza wouldn't be bad. I'll take it. You know, get in my belly kind of thing, you know.
So, Super Woody Boy is asking, so what can people do in the meantime waiting for help? Sage burning, etc.?
Well, it really does depend, and this is where it gets tricky, because if you're not certain what you're dealing with, sometimes what you do can exacerbate the problem. You know, we talked about this in a previous show.
Right.
Sage works well on certain things. Tobacco works well on another. Lemongrass works well. Sometimes mix them all together. Same with lavender, rosemary, thyme. Any of those particular herbs can work very well. But here's the kicker. If you don't know what you're dealing with, what you use might anger or agitate or exacerbate. So that is, like, I'm not telling people to investigate their own homes, but there are certain things they can do that will give them an idea if what they're dealing with is negative or positive.
Yeah. Well, and it comes down to another thing about, you know, education, or getting somebody in the house this season that's been around for a while. Because, again, you know, you only see like a snippet on the shows and what have you. And, you know, they may be doing a cleansing on the show, and you see, oh, they're using sage and salt and all this, and you may go running around your house trying to do that, and then, you know, you put salt and holy water all around the windows, and you haven't actually gotten it out of the house yet. You haven't driven it out, so now you've just sealed it in. So. Exactly
right. Well, and yeah. I saw, and I was actually mentioned on this show. It was one that they did on Halloween a couple of years ago. It was Destination America, and they actually mentioned me on the show with something that I had sent them, and I wish they had mentioned this, because they showed something and it really bothered me, because it gives people a false sense of security in trying this themselves. And they used a Ouija board in the house that was that the Exorcist was based on.
Okay, yeah.
They didn't close the session.
Right.
They didn't close the session.
That's a problem. That's
a big problem. Any type of divination like that, you have to close the session.
Yeah.
You know, and which is basically, that's what it is. Any type of spirit communication, you know, can be considered that. And so people see these things and they're like, oh, well, this is the way that I can talk to whatever it is, not realizing that they've just, you know, unlocked, undeadbolted, unsecurity barred their door and left it wide open. You know, and so that's a problem.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where these shows, and I'm breaking up, I can see it on the thing.
Yeah, the audio's fine. I mean, the video's a little murky.
As long as the audio is good, I don't care.
The audio's fine. Andrew Cuppage is asking, or he says, I burn incense a lot. Does that help?
Yes, it does, actually. My preference is dragon's blood or nag champa. That works very well to cleanse and kind of stabilize your environment. We've talked about this other in a previous show as well. Music or wind chimes, bells, a Himalayan singing bowl. Those work very well. Anything that cleanses the environment that you're in can actually subdue what is there. It won't make it go away, but it can subdue it and make it to where it isn't bothering you anymore, which is good.
That's good.
I've never noticed a negative reaction to music. Never.
Yep. Real quickly, I do want to address something that Andrew's saying here. It feels depression bad in his building. And Andrew, I do remember, of course, investigating your building, and didn't necessarily come across anything like oppressive or you know, bad or evil or anything like that. But what I do remember about your particular building, I can't quite remember where your apartment was, but the maintenance closets in the hallway do emit a lot of high EMF. So I don't know if that was ever conveyed to you when we finished up there. I know our former case manager was handling some of that, but yeah, I do remember that about your building, so that may be something to look into, because a high EMF like that can have that sort of effect on people.
It definitely can, but as soon as you mentioned his building, and I don't know if it's 2 or 3 stories tall, but there was somebody that was on the top floor that actually either attempted or succeeded in suicide.
Yeah. Well, there has been negative events at the building, from what I recall. I actually don't remember the specifics. I remember something negative happening, but Andrew, you can confirm that or not in the chat.
He doesn't need to do it on here if he doesn't want to.
Yeah, he doesn't have to. No. He can get with us later, too.
Yeah, but it's as soon as you said his building, that's what I saw and felt. So I'm not sure if it's 2nd or 3rd floor, but it's the top part of the building.
Okay.
Is where it was at, but it was inside the apartment. It wasn't like jumping from the roof or anything like that. So, okay, Andrew said, "Oh, okay, I'll go sit in my corner." I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means.
You're fine, buddy. I just wanted to thank you, Vanessa, for addressing that. And like I said, I just remember that about your building. So it's not necessarily you. It could be something with that. So
Voodoo Jenna actually has, and I need to say this, I'm sure people are reading it, she goes,
okay.
From my experience, sage needs to be combined with something else, sweetgrass, lemongrass, etc., to be effective in clearing negative energy. It doesn't get rid of entity spirits, etc. And that has been my experience as well. It will clear the energy, and like I said, it can ease your environment, but it doesn't necessarily make anything go away just by doing that. Generally, what you have to have for cleansing is a ritual. And Gwen and I have done those ourselves. So it is very specific in how you do it. And so if somebody isn't well versed in that, they need to find out what they're dealing with first, and then find somebody that knows how to deal with that. So that's the best advice I can give on that. But yes, any type of sage to me always works better if it is with something else. And I will agree with that wholeheartedly.
Getting my tea.
I still can't believe I used to think that was vodka because I couldn't see the thing, but vodka, I'm so glad it wasn't.
Yeah, drinking on the show.
I know, right? We don't want to do that. But that's the biggest thing, and I've come across so much with people, especially over the last 2 years, is those who believed that they were unlucky enough to wherever they went, it was haunted, when in turn it was them.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually more often than not the case.
Well, I think a lot of times people are like a beacon to that plane of existence, that supernatural world, whatever you want to call it. And so wherever they go and they set up shop, they're setting up their home, they're seeing like a bright light, or what, if you want to call it that, like I said, a beacon, to these entities, and they go flocking toward that person. Mm-hmm. And so it's...
Well, and if you will think back to some of the investigations that we participated on, and different ones that you've done, and different ones that I've done separately, respectively, how many people who requested the investigations had been through traumatic instances in their life?
Yeah.
A very high percentage.
That's true.
And when you go through something traumatic, whether it be physical, emotional or psychological, whatever, when you go through tragedy or trauma and come out the other side of it, you've opened yourself up in a way that somebody who has never experienced that just hasn't opened up. And it's one of those things where that stuff can just follow you around, and getting rid of it is damn near impossible. Yeah. So it's not just what to do when you're haunted as of getting rid of it, is how do you handle what comes with it. And I think that's where a lot of people have trouble. That's where a lot of people really get confused, is because it's tough.
Yeah, definitely.
It sucks ass half the days. It really does.
Woody has a question. Not meaning to get you off topic, but it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Where'd it go? Basically, he wanted to know how, okay, what is the proper way of going out and finding a professional Ghostbuster? Well, first of all, we're not Ghostbusters. That was a movie. We don't have the ectoplasm packs and all that stuff.
Oh, wow.
That would be cool. That would be really cool to walk around the proton pack and... but...
Oh, so bad.
Some people use the term ghost hunter. I prefer the term paranormal investigator, even though Hans Holzer is the one that coined the term ghost hunter. I kind of don't like it because I'm not hunting ghosts. I mean, I'm looking, searching, but I'm not. It's not like I got the proton pack and I'm hunting them down, you know. So I prefer paranormal investigator, but you know, whatever. It's just a term. You know, or you know, as far as like somebody who, you know, if you're talking about like quote unquote busting, somebody cleansing a place to get rid of spirits, well, hire Vanessa.
Don't know, not hire. I don't charge for that.
She doesn't charge for that. I know. No, you have to be very careful who you bring in the home, because it's kind of like what Vanessa was saying earlier. There's people that you can bring in that kind of just exacerbate the situation. So you really have to do a good job of vetting who you bring in there. You know, talk to people. You know, kind of vet. You know, do some research on these particular people, because I mean they'll have their name out there. Like, hi, I'm so and so, and I cleanse homes. Okay, well, Google them. You know, find out what cases they've been on, because there's going to be a lot of things that are public about them. And then if there's some names or what have you about the homes or the places that they have said to have cleansed, call them up, ask them. Just ask, hey, is there anything else going on at that location? When we did the haunted episode with Carl Johnson, he was brought all the way in from New England out to Oklahoma to cleanse that house. And up until when I left Oklahoma, that family had not had those problems anymore. It was cleansed. So I'll say, yeah, Carl's the man. So just.
Well, and you bring up a very good point, Mike, when you talk about vetting and Googling and everything, because if somebody Googles my name, you're going to hit about 5 pages on Google.
Yeah.
If they Google your name, they're going to hit 10, 15 pages on everything you've done. We're all over social media. We're all over YouTube. There are ways to verify and validate what we've done. But for just as many, if not more people, who claim to be a part of this community, you might see it on the top of their Facebook page. That's not their profile picture, but whatever that other thing is. And it says, whatever paranormal. Google it.
Yeah.
I bet you dollars to donuts, 70% of them you can't find anything on when you Google.
Yeah.
You're not going to find any information.
It also uses a little bit of common sense. Like, there's I don't remember which video it was a couple of years ago, one of the videos here at Haunted Road Media, and I left it there. There was a lady who came in who said that she's been a demonologist since she was 12 years old. You're not a demonologist at 12 years old. So just use a little common sense. Yeah.
There was a very good question on here, Mike. This is from Spooky Spectacular 13. And it says, question, have you ever brought somebody on an investigation who really did something inappropriate? I brought a woman who decided to do a pagan thing in a Christian home. It went bad. That actually can happen.
Yeah.
That actually can happen. Just like we say, if you're going to bring somebody into your home, and like Mike says, you need to vet them and do all kinds of research on them, you need to do the same before you bring somebody into your team as well.
True enough. True enough.
You have to be very, very, very careful, because not everybody's energy meshes. Not everybody is on the same page. Not everybody has the same goals and motives. And if you're going to put your name behind something, you have to make sure that you're protecting that name with everything you have. And so, have I ever brought somebody on an investigation that I probably shouldn't have? Yes.
Yep.
Will I make that mistake again? No.
Or at least you hope not. I mean, because somebody can, be a very good interview, and then you get them out there and just it doesn't click.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Be very, very, very careful.
Yeah.
That's the best thing I can say on that. And thank you. That's a wonderful question. I'm glad that was brought up.
That was a good question.
Yeah.
Shana says, it's not necessarily a question, it's a request. It's a little off topic, but it's interesting what happened. Tell everyone about our experience at Vandalia where you saw my child spirit in the corner of the room when I put my hand where he was standing. This was really interesting. This was really interesting. We're in the room where he seems to hang out, and Shana was talking with him in the corner, and she was putting her hand out like this, and kind of going like that. It's like she could touch him. She could feel that he was there, could feel his energy. What I saw around her hand was like this shadowy, it was almost like a liquid cloud that kept going around her hand. And she's going like this, and I kept seeing this shadowy, almost, like I said, it was almost like a liquid that was encircling her hand. It was really, really interesting. So I'm hoping the camera caught it.
Well, now this is weird. First off, let me bring up something that Megan Talbert said, and I could not agree with her more. She says you need to have the client take part, I believe. They need to play a part in the cleansing of their home.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yes. Absolutely. Because the client needs to say, hey, this is my domain now. This is my house. It's not yours. Yes. The client needs to take possession of their own home. Yeah. Exactly.
I'm going to tell you right now, and I mean, this is the way we've worked it in the past in Virginia. If we're going into a private residence, granted, all children are taken out.
Yeah.
Okay? No children, no young children doing an investigation like that. But the homeowners stay with us. That way, not only can we not aggravate something in their presence and then make them suffer for it later because they're watching everything we do, but they're asserting their authority.
Yep.
That's their domain. They should not be kicked out during the investigation, only left to wonder what in the hell you stirred up in their absence. And
yeah,
I completely agree with you. Mike, your Shawna's hand thing?
Yep.
Yesterday, I'm sitting in my car, having a cigarette in my parking lot, getting ready to go back into work. Minding my own business. It's noon 30, okay? And about 6 feet above the ground, 6 feet long, a black shadow passes in front of my car.
Oh, wow.
Not a shadow from the sun, not a cloud, not nothing like that. It was like
You broke up. You broke up. It was like
shadow
what?
Daylight.
You broke up. You broke up. It was like
it was
a
like
what?
A black shadow. Motherfucker. I'm sorry, of course that part gets heard.
Of course. You're dropping that bomb. I gotta hear that.
It was a black shadowy mist about 6 feet tall, 6 feet off the ground.
Okay. Just out in the parking lot.
Just out in the parking lot. And I put that on Facebook, and somebody asked me, like, well, did you get a negative feeling from that? I was like, no. It was almost like, hey, sup?
Yeah, they're not necessarily bad when you see a shadow. I mean, I used to see one. I've talked about it many times before when I first moved to Ohio from Massachusetts, and there was this shadow that would peer in to my room when I was just unpacking boxes and all that, and I didn't ever feel like it was a threat, like it was a danger or anything like that. It just seemed curious, and that was it. It seemed pretty harmless. So they're not all shadows are bad or evil or anything like that.
Absolutely. Megan has a little extra part to her question here, and this is
Bring it on, Megan.
Good. What happens if the activity is only around the children? Ever consider having them be a part of the cleanse, walking around with the parent? I've actually experienced this.
Okay.
One of the cases that I went to in Virginia, in a private residence, the main objective of the haunting was the youngest child in the family. Okay? And you can hear his audio interview with me on BPI's YouTube, on the episode Too Many Tenants. However, I did not feel, nor did the team that was with me, BPI, we did not feel comfortable due to the type of activity that was happening on that land to have the young children there. That having been said, I brought with me, and he still has it, protection for him to keep with him at all times And when I went back out to Virginia the second time, he came running out of the house holding what I gave him.
Okay.
And that was almost a year later, and he had no problems, no really bad instances at all. The spirit, one of the spirits is still there, the nice one, and he was told that he could stay. But he hadn't had any issues. He hadn't had any negative issues. He was made a part of it, this young child was, by telling us his story and us helping him in ways that only Gwen and I could. But it would have not been good to have him there on that property when we were investigating. Things got ugly. And you never know when that's going to happen.
Right.
It would have been bad.
It's bad timing. But Shawna's saying something in the chat about ectoplasm. And so, you know, that brings up ectogasm, and Ghosty's missing his sock, so.
Y'all are just a bunch of fuckers, okay? Because you know what that does to me.
I know.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So it happened again. It happened again. This is like ectogasm channel. We should just change the channel name to that, ectogasm.
You know what kind of viewers we're going to get if we do that.
Oh, no. We won't do that, but, you know, it's kind of our inside joke. It's our inside joke with the channel. It really did happen. So, let me throw this out. To get back into a more serious topic, because it is a serious topic tonight. Okay, so investigating a house, you come across a spirit in a room, and somebody says, let's cross them over. Just out of nowhere. You just cross them over like that? Or, you know, because to me, I think it's a choice for the spirit as to whether they want that to happen or not.
Yes, it is. I actually think a lot of people, I think they use that term very liberally. Okay? It's been my experience, I'm just saying this to Megan real quick. It's been my experience that they can come and go as they see fit. Now, that having been said, there are some who aren't stuck here, but feel stuck here. Okay? And it could be because they need to get that last message across or whatever. It's a whole big ghost whisperer thing. And you can help them with that. And they might leave. But they come back any damn time they want to. It's been my experience. You know? But I have yet to come into contact with one that can't come and go. That some do feel tied to where they are. And their reasons are theirs alone.
Sure.
You know, I mean, they need not explain themselves to us when it comes to that. If they need help, we offer it. If they don't, we do the best we can to at least try to find some way for the living and the deceased to cohabitate together without causing any trouble.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the trick there. I mean, you know, these spirits had once been people, you know, most of them. And so they have their personality from when they were a person, and that may conflict with the homeowner. You know, or they may just be, you know, a quiet, nice person that, you know, really just, you know, wants to mind their own business, and all of a sudden, you know, you come stomping in there, and you know that they're there, and now you want to try to kick them out. Well, I don't necessarily think that's the right thing either. You know, even though you're saying this is your home, they may be totally cool with that. You don't have to boot them out.
Well, and there is also, and people fail to realize this, there is a very real possibility they have no idea you're there.
That's true too.
You know, they might be going along their daily lives, making their sandwich in the kitchen, getting ready to go to work, and it's their time, and they don't see anything any differently.
Yeah.
And they don't know you're there, but you can hear them.
Well, yeah, and that could all come down to, because there's a lot of theories. I know we've talked about it on here with Andrea Perrin. We talked about it a little bit with Jared Osborne last week, and it's, you know, it's a theory that I've been working on for several years. I didn't realize other people kind of already had the theory established. It was just, it popped into my head one day. You know, how you kind of look at at the way time works, and maybe it's, you know, perpendicular rather than, you know, horizontal, or vertical rather than horizontal. And maybe all these events are happening at a particular location all at the same time, and, you know, sometimes those events bleed over, so maybe we're experiencing, you know, another time and place, you know, that we're able to see for whatever reason, and, you know, they may or may not see us. So there's a lot of different theories out there as to, you know, how we are actually experiencing these spirits and how they're experiencing us. You know, they may be experiencing us as spirits. So
exactly, that's what I was going to say. Like, to them, maybe we're the ghosts.
Yeah, and trying to you know, pass on a spirit. If you're trying to, you know, pass on somebody who's actually presently living in 1872, well, that's not really going to work.
Well, and what's funny is maybe when we smell those strange smells, maybe that's them smudging, trying to get us.
And maybe.
You know, I mean, maybe, I'm just going to throw this out there, I'm going to hop down that rabbit hole, but maybe the mist and the smoke that we see is them trying to sage us out.
Maybe. It really could be. You know, especially from that time period in Shamaness is The Others. Yeah, The Others is definitely a movie that that dives into that. But, yeah, you know, especially if you're talking that time frame, like mid-1800s, you know, on through the early 20th century, you know, when you had the, you know, very, very large and, you know, spiritualism movement that did a lot of that. You know, sure, there's a lot of it that was fake during that time, but there was a lot of legit stuff going on too, and they were, you know, doing all that stuff that we do now. So maybe they are smudging us out.
And it's ironic because and a lot of people, I guess, because maybe they just don't think of it, but there's all these kind of gadgets and everything out there that you can gauge, you know, possible spirit activity or alleged spirit activity. There's all kinds of stuff out there. But the staples that we go to, the things that we depend upon or rely upon in order to ease spirit activity if it's becoming uncomfortable, is as old as time itself. It's
oh yeah, because you're talking about herbs and stones and all of that. Yeah, yeah. We'll have to go back to the basics.
Stuff. Yeah, it's the go-to stuff. It's what people rely on. It's what they put their faith in.
Yep.
You know, but it isn't something you can buy at Ghostbusters or us. Yeah. You know, I mean, it just isn't. You know.
No, you go down to a place like It's Raining Zen, your local metaphysical shop, and you're buying your stones, and you know, Andrew was mentioning incense earlier. You're buying that stuff, and yeah, you know, you go back to nature.
Absolutely. I will be the first to admit that my apartment smells like a head shop. You know, because I've got so much incense and dragon's blood oil and everything else here that is just, you know, yeah. I mean, that's what I do. You know?
Right.
And it's about keeping my vibe. And you know what? I had laid off of that for a long time. And just recently, I said, you know what, I've got to pull myself back in. I've been working a lot. I've been exhausted. I've been neglecting that part of me. Right. So over the past week and a half, I've been doing that. And I tell you, it is, you walk in here and it's just the vibe.
Nice.
It's the vibe, you know. And it's like nothing's getting through that. Fran is asking, what was the result of the New York investigation? Fran, darn. Lots of goodies. And we're going to have everything put together. I'm getting the rest of the info. I got Julius today. Rachel should be on its way. And we have a lot to put into a documentary, and we will put it out just as soon as we can. So there was actually a $64,000 question on here somewhere. So why wouldn't a spirit want to cross over to paradise?
Well,
this is from Secret Witty Boy.
Yeah, I saw that. I was gonna. You got to it before I did. Very good.
Yeah. Did you take it?
Well, we can tag team on it. But I mean, my input on it is, you know, kind of like what we were just talking about. You know, for one, you know, maybe it's not that we're crossing, trying to cross them over to the paradise. Maybe, they are actually currently living, in their time and place, and we're just seeing another time and place. So crossing them over is kind of a moot point because there's no place for them to go. They're still alive. On the flip side, if they really are deceased and they're a spirit, and you're asking, okay, why not go over into paradise? They may not believe that that's where they're headed. There's a lot of, I believe that there's a number of spirits out there that believe that if they were to cross over, quote unquote cross over, they're not going to a paradise, they're going to hell. You have to remember the time frame that a lot of these spirits lived in, they were beaten over the head with religion up and down. If they didn't do certain things in their life, then they were damned to hell. And so they have that fear of, if they do this crossing over to the other side sort of thing, that's where they're going.
And my answer to that question is twofold.
Go for it.
Is that, of course it is, everybody's definition of paradise is different.
That's true.
When people talk about vacations and they talk about paradise, they talk about going to Jamaica or laying on the beach or something like that. I want to go into broken down castle ruins on foggy, moss-filled nights in the dark with no flashlight.
Absolutely.
That's my paradise. That's what makes my heart sing. So everybody's definition of paradise is different. And I can tell you, and this will probably offend some people in the chat, and for that I do apologize, but in the over 3 decades, actually over 4 decades, I've done this, because I'm 45 years old, started doing this at the age of 2, okay? So in the over 4 decades that I have been able to do this, in the thousands of spirits I have actually spoken to, not one has mentioned heaven or hell.
Yeah. And I've heard that from a number of people, that they don't speak of heaven or hell.
No. There is no fire and brimstone. There is no place of paradise. It's
and that in itself could scare a spirit. They've died, and they're not seen. Where's heaven? Where's hell? Where's that? So that may even scare them too. Like, oh, you're talking about crossing over, but to where? Because I'm not seeing either one of these places.
And it's a process. It's a process. I mean, I think a lot of people are under the assumption that when you pass, all of a sudden you know everything that there is to know. Well, if that was the case, we wouldn't keep coming back.
Right.
I think it's a learning process, and you just kind of have to feel it out.
And that's a whole other. That's a whole other can of worms too, because if you're talking reincarnation, I've heard a lot of stuff about, just from like doing, people have done past life regressions, and sometimes that past life that they tap into isn't one of their past lives, but that in-between place between lives. And so what is that place,
Exactly. Where's that at here? Luli Tubi, she says, Vanessa or Mike, so we should both take this. Off topic but curious, what are your thoughts about channeling or channelers? I channel. I don't always like it. Most times it's not fun, but it has been my experience that it has helped those who have needed me to do it. Even at the detriment to myself. Yeah. I don't recommend it for everybody, but I do it, and I'm going to continue to do it because it's my own private way that I can help. Mike?
I mean, I don't channel. That's not my superpower.
Mine's sarcasm. That's my superpower.
That's not my superpower. My superpower is dreams. Sometimes. I mean, it's hard for me to speak on it since I don't do it. But from my understanding, it can be very dangerous to the channeler. So I would, stress caution with doing such a thing. And I know, Vanessa, that you do take caution with that when you do it. My only other input is I write about a time channeler. If you go to timechanneler.com. Shameless plug.
That's okay. Super Woody Boy says that many near-death experiences contradict what I just said. And they might. I've had 4.
Yeah. And that's one of the really, really interesting things about what we do, about dealing with the paranormal and the supernatural, is that there's so many different experiences that people have had that a lot of times they back each other up, but a lot of times they contradict each other as well. So what is the truth? I mean, that's what we're searching for. We're trying to make sense of all this chaos, the afterlife, and why is it people see a light at the end of the tunnel when they have a near-death experience? There's a lot of those reports. There's some that don't have those reports though too. So we're trying to make sense of it all. It's a good question, but really there isn't an answer for it.
I think in many instances when you talk about a near-death experience or a death experience, I had to be resuscitated.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about that, you're never gone long. Okay, you're never gone long. So it's really hard to say what is past what people see. I know what I've seen. I know what I am being told others are currently seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Tammy asked if I've ever asked specifically about Heather Health. And the very first time I was asked that, I hadn't. But I have since. And I have been told it doesn't exist.
Well.
So.
And that's a great debate to have.
Yeah.
That's.
They can be fun with me, maybe they're fibbing. I don't know. But that is what I've been told.
Yeah, and it just may be that, our understanding of heaven and hell right now, as human beings, have been compartmentalized by religion. And that may just not be the case. I mean, there may be a world beyond, but it's not, this glorious place with streets of gold versus this lake of fire,
Well, and I've said it, you've heard me say it, everybody in the chat room's heard me say it, I'm going to say it one more time. People have been living and dying and coming back many, many, many moons before the written word of man.
Yeah.
And the written word of man is religion.
Yeah, so where were they going before that?
Where were they going before that? So it's just one of those things, that none of us have the exact answer. And even if we did, no one's going to believe us. So this whole journey is about finding your experience and what resonates and rings true with you and what you do with the information that you receive. And do you help others with that? Or do you try to get self-gain from it? What do you do with it?
Right.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and what we're doing here is, we're trying to, the people that we interact with, you guys are Mad Hatters, we're trying to help people, we're trying to find answers, we're trying to, we're exploring, and that's a term that we use a lot with Haunted Road Media and Edge of the Rabbit Hole, is explore with us. We're all on this journey together. We're going to these, historic locations or these ruins, or, we're exploring, these different lores, these different theories. There's a lot of different directions that, we're going and we're looking at here, and it's all a journey that we're taking together. And there may not be a definitive answer at the end of it all, but you may be a little more wiser for the wear.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and whatever information we get in this life from them, we carry with us after, and we might bring even more back with us if we come again.
If we come again, that's personally, but I mean, what I'm trying to do with this life is, I can only take with me, my conscious. Anything, physical, we can't take it into the next world. But maybe there's something that I can learn myself. But, in this life, anything that we learn by doing what we're doing is to pass on to the next generation. Maybe the next generation can take what we've been able to achieve and been able to learn and one-up it and keep it going generation after generation. There's going to be people after us that are going to be learning much more about this than we. But it has to start somewhere, and that's with us.
Exactly. It even starts with me and my own child. I'm exceptionally open with my son on what I do and how I do it. I did not allow him to become involved until he hit his teen years, and even then it's minimal. You know, but even just sitting here in our home the other night, I'm teaching him things based on my spirituality and what I do, in hopes that he doesn't have to follow it. He can choose whatever path he wants, and I will support it 100%, even if it's not mine, because it's his. But he'll take part of me with him.
Right. But you're giving him a foundation with which to work, and he can choose to take it or leave it. But you are giving him something to start with.
Absolutely, I'm giving him an understanding that not everybody has to believe the same thing in order to find common ground.
Right.
And that's what we're doing on this show, I hope, is showing people, even through the chat, because we don't all agree.
No, we don't, and that's obvious with the conversations that we have. We see it in the chat. There's differing opinions. There's you and I don't agree on everything, and so. But it's great to have that kind of dialogue, because nobody's 100% correct on any of this. Exactly. We all have it wrong to some degree. And that's the thing that I always say about religion is, I kind of, not to get into religious debate, but I kind of laugh at it because, people are diehard at this, and this, and I'm like, you're all wrong. You may have, you might be 25% right, you might be 40%, whatever it is, but, nobody's 100%.
No, they're not. Either one of us or anybody else, That's why I always tell people when I'm doing something, that has to do with this. I'm like, this is just what I'm getting. You don't have to agree nor believe.
Right.
But I won't alter what I'm going to say to make you comfortable.
Yeah, and I like what Woody's saying here. Life is supposed to be, it just scrolled up. Life is supposed to be a learning experience and to share it with our loved ones. Exactly. Exactly. As we learn, we pass it on to our loved ones. And, part of what we're doing is also, sharing it with you and passing it on to you.
Exactly right. I agree completely. Well, we just had a nice little love-filled chat.
We did. We did. That's a great place to leave it off. We're right at our hour mark. Hour and minute and a half, 45 seconds. Ish. So it's a great place to leave it off. So,
yes.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, again, I want to thank everybody for joining us for tonight. What do you do if you are haunted? If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please go ahead and do so. The next goal is 5,000. Our Cheshire Cats are making that push. Not just to 4,000, but 5,000 and beyond. So again, thank you everybody for the 3,000. And don't forget to enter the drawing. You can't do it on YouTube. You have to do it elsewhere. But we'll have the drawing next week. And that'll be for Ghosty t-shirt. If your state laws apply, I have to throw that out there. If your state laws apply. It's weird. I know. There's so many little intricacies with the whole YouTube thing. No, seriously, because it goes across state lines, and depending on how you word it and all that, there could be like, gambling and all that. But we're not really gambling. So, but no. the way people do contests on YouTube are all a little different. So we just need to be careful, is all.
It's only a gamble on Skype, whether or not it'll work. That's the only gamble we've ever got going on. Okay.
Yeah. Whether or not Skype's going to work, I know. Or whether the power is going to be up. I mean, thank God it stayed on the whole show. That was a big if earlier today. I can still see the lights flashing out there, so they're still working on it. Trying to get the new pole put into place. But yeah, thank you.
Good luck too.
Yeah. Hopefully it stays up through the night. So I've got a lot of work to do. We got more videos coming out. Friday Night Ghost Race coming up into this week. Also going to try to get another investigation video done by Sunday night. I'm not traveling this weekend, so I should have time to get that done. So stay tuned for all of that. Share the video out. Tell your friends all about it, and I think that'll about do it. So let's give some shout-outs real quick before we go. I almost forgot about that. Of course, got to thank our chat Shananigator, Shawna, for stirring up the chat as always. I love you very, very much, my chat Shananigator. Okay, Kelly Doll, thank you for joining us this evening. Dawn, thank you for being here with us again. Tammy Heitzman, thank you very much. Andrew Cox, as always. Super Woody Boy, thanks for the questions tonight. Fran Molino, doppelgangers. The doppelgangers is a subject for a whole other show.
Yeah.
Lenora Martinez, thank you for joining us. Lenora, I just said Lenora. Chipper Terry, thank you. Ether Shadow, and yes, you are a girl. That came up a couple weeks ago. I knew she was a girl. Linz White, thank you again. Bethany Warner, thanks for joining us. Jen L, thank you. Megan Talbert, thank you for the feedback and the questions and insight. Zippy Davis, thanks for joining us again. Zippy came over from Noreen's channel, as did many of you. Thank you for that. Tammy Sifford, one of our Cheshire cats, thank you. I don't know if Donna Gort was able to get into the chat tonight. I know she's had problems with that. Luli Tubby, thank you for joining us again. There's Vanessa. Hey, there you are. Steve W, thank you. Charmy Vapes and Shits, thanks again for being here with us. Denala, again, thank you. Nelly, thanks for joining us again tonight. Who else do we have? And X Group Home Kid, there you are again tonight. Anybody else? Go ahead and throw it down at the bottom. I'm going to scroll back down. And Carrie Parrish, of course, you were in the chat tonight as well. And Voodoo Jenna, you had a question earlier. Veronica Flores is there. And I think that's going to do it for the shout-outs for tonight. If I missed you, no offense. I think Diane Hilbert was in there earlier.
I think so.
Yeah, so. All right. That'll be it for tonight. Again, thanks for joining us for another Edge of the Rabbit Hole. Join us next week, August 15th, where we do the drawing. And then we've already been over who's going to be coming up here. So that'll be it. Get your Ghosty. Ghosty's going to go have himself a little ectogasm somewhere. And that's how we're going to end the show. Have a great night, everyone.